how to trust in the universe no matter what. No matter if everything seems to be crumbling down around you, no matter if however hard you seem to be trying, nothing seems to be working. How to trust that the universe has heard you and is bringing things towards you, even in those darkest of times. Hello my lovelies, welcome back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Lucie, and on this channel I share all kinds of things about personal development, spirituality, and how to become the best version of you. Before we dive in, I just want to introduce you to my two friends that I have with me here today. This little fella is actually the offspring of another one of my plants, and he used to be very, very little. So he's doing well, he seems happy. And then we've also got this fella here, who has one of my hairs on him. I won't even explain that story. But yeah, this is this guy. So I was actually wondering if you guys could come up with some names for these two friends of mine, because they don't yet have names. So please comment below what you think these guys look like. And then the winner will get a shout out on my next video. The winner, I'll let you know which names I've decided on, and you guys will get a shout out. As I'm sure all of you already know, a huge part of manifestation is to make sure that you not only, visualize what you want, get it really clear in your mind what it is that you're asking for, but that you also are on a vibration where you actually believe that that stuff is on its way to you. And when everything's going well and things are good, then it's quite easy to trust the process. But in those times when things aren't going so well and none of the results have shown up yet, actually it's just as important, if not more important, to still believe, trust, stay positive as you can, and stay as strong as you can in your mind that things are always working out for you. You may have heard Abraham Hicks always says, everything is always working out for me. Even when it doesn't seem to be working out for me, it is working out for me. And especially when everything seems to be working out for me, then it definitely is working out for me, right? And I often in the darkest times, or when I seem to be having a really bad day, I say that to myself, everything is always working out for me. Everything is always working out for me. And it's like a little mantra that can help you to pick up pieces of your life, stay as strong and as positive as you possibly can in that moment, and trust the process. Another thing that one of my mentors, Master Sri Akashana, says is that he says this, but Steve Jobs originally said it, you can only connect the dots looking backwards. How many of you have heard that quote before? By the way, type these quotes that I'm sharing with you in the comments just to really, ingrain them into your subconscious mind. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. And so what that means is that when you are in the moment, when you're in the picture frame of this now moment of your life, the stuff that seems to not be going to your plan, or the things that are seemingly harder to do than you wanted them to be, it can be very hard to understand that they're actually all part of the grand master plan that is bringing you everything that you want. And so then in those dark times when we doubt and we don't believe, it's very easy for us then to give up, to go into a negative spiral of vibrations, and to go completely off course. And then it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, and we're there being right, but going, see, told you so, didn't work, don't believe it, never, everything bad, that kind of stuff, which I'm not going to verbalize or vocalize too much. So the point is, it's not about how bad things may be right now. It's about how you choose to respond, which is going to determine which direction your life could move forward from now onwards. So whenever things don't go to plan, another thing that I tell myself is that these are just detours in the right direction. And what I'm going to do in this video is I'm going to share with you a couple of real life examples of how I can now connect the dots looking backwards in my life, and how I can truly, hand on heart, say that those things that seem to be, really, moments of my life when things were not going to plan, I look back now with genuine gratitude, because had it not been for those detours, which now I see were actually detours guiding me in the right direction to everything that I want, had it not been for them, I wouldn't have the life, the blessings, the things that I'm so grateful for today. I want you to write down this quote, which is a quote by me, which is, your manifestation is coming to you via the best route for a full life experience. I want you to think on that for a second. Your manifestation is coming to you via the best route for a full life experience. Meaning that, yeah, it's not just one comfortable little stepping stone to a next easy step, to another easy step, to another easy step. You've got those highs and those lows, and without the lows, you wouldn't really be able to feel true happiness. Imagine if everything was just bland, normal, good, life's fine, yada, yada, yada. We may think that that sounds like an ideal situation, but pretty quickly, the novelty of that would wear off. And if it's all you knew, you'd find it very hard to actually appreciate it. When things do go well for you, when you do get, an amazing relationship with an amazing partner, when you do land a dream job, or when your business does take off, the reasons why those moments feel so good and so special is because you have felt what it feels like when it's not going that well, during the darker times, during the tougher times. So now I'm going to give you 2 real life examples of how I now come to completely trust the universe. And while I'm sharing these stories, I invite you to think about where you are in your life right now, the good things that you have that you can actually be grateful for. And I want you to trace it back to think, okay, had it not been for these things that happened, for this sequence of events, maybe I wouldn't have the life that I have now. So I'd love it if any of you have a realization like that, to comment it below with your realization of, actually, had it not been for this detour and that thing not really going to plan and that thing seemingly to go really, really wrong, I would never have met this person, or I would never have decided to start up the business of my dreams, or I would have never decided to move to this country, and so on and so forth. So my first example of this is when I was 18 years old and I was applying to go to university, and I was a good student who did study very, very hard. And so because I was sort of I fitted into that category, my school pushed all of us to go to either Oxford or Cambridge, which are, wherever you are in the world, you've probably heard of those universities, right? They're 2 of the most famous universities in the world. They're kind of like the UK's Ivy League equivalent to universities. So to apply to Oxford or Cambridge, as we call them, Oxbridge, is a completely different process in terms of the fact that not only do you have to get flawless grades, but also there are other hoops that you need to jump through to prove that you are well-rounded, to prove that you are charismatic, and as many sort of extra bonus points as you can have, the better, because the competition is so fierce. So for a good 2 years, I was put on track to go to Oxford or Cambridge, and I could take my pick. So I went to visit Oxford, I went to visit Cambridge. For me, I fell in love with Cambridge much more than Oxford, and I decided that I was going to set my heart on going to Cambridge. You guys are probably already preempting how the story is going to go. So anyway, I put everything in, all that I had, into going to Cambridge. I read so many books. I spent hundreds of hours doing extra things, extra level of learning, going the extra mile, preparing, doing interview practice. And I was told, that if you actually want to get into Cambridge, you've got to show that there is no other plan for you, that you put 110% into this process. You can't put Cambridge as your second option, otherwise they won't even contemplate choosing you. You have to show that it is absolutely everything that you've ever wanted. So I had to get into that frame of mind in order to have a chance at getting in. So after hundreds of hours of work and preparation and visualization and interview practice, the day came for me to go to Cambridge to have my interviews. I was extremely nervous, as you can imagine, but I truly felt like I'd done all the preparation that I could. My mum and I went up to Cambridge the night before. We stayed in a hotel, woke up the next morning, and my body, full of adrenaline, went to this college where I was going to have my interviews. The first interview went relatively well, although it was quite hard to read the interviewer and I couldn't really tell how well I did. The second interview was absolutely a complete mess. I knew that they would throw curveballs at me. I knew that you could never be too prepared. But the stuff that they required of me was I was basically going there to study Spanish, and with the additional option to start learning Portuguese from scratch while I was there. So the whole thing was about learning Portuguese from scratch. And then they asked me to read out loud and interpret a Portuguese poem, and then seemed disappointed that I didn't know how to speak Portuguese yet. Hey, there's a million things you could say, and you could totally, think, oh, well, somebody else would have done more prep and made sure that they knew how to speak Portuguese and Spanish. But if they did, then what's the point in going to learn? Anyway, we don't even need to go into those details. The point was, I, for whatever reason, mystical or logical or whatever, I had a very poor second interview. And on top of that, in the waiting room with the other interviewees, the other potential students, they were all so competitive and, sizing me up and looking me up and down and asking me what other things I did on the side of, my studies. And I was thinking, hey, potentially if we both get in, we could be friends. But everyone wasn't even trying to be friends. Everyone was just so fiercely competitive. The point is, as soon as that day was over, I realized that actually I didn't want to be in an environment like that at all. And this is no disrespect to people who do go to Oxford or Cambridge. I'm sure everyone has differing experiences, but this is just coming from my personal experience, which was that the sort of glorification of what it would be like compared to what it actually was didn't match. And so I felt a huge sort of loss and disappointment, but particularly since I'd given it my absolute all and I hadn't even contemplated any other options in my life. Then a few weeks later, I got my letter of basically letting me know whether I got the place or didn't get the place. And you guessed it, I got rejected. I didn't get into Cambridge. I remember sitting in my mum's office with her on her spinny office chair, and I was just sobbing my eyes out. Looking back, I don't even really know why, because I've moved so far on from that moment. That was a good 9 years ago now, wow. But at the time, you know what it's like when you put everything into only one option. You give it your all. And, for the last 2 years, everyone's basically been saying your life is going to be so good if and when you go to this university, and we won't even contemplate any other options. So I really felt just completely lost, empty. This sounds really bad, but almost embarrassed and like a total failure. And had no idea what I was going to do. After about 20 minutes of crying, my mum was amazing. My dad was also amazing. The two of them were there, just kind of letting me have my reaction. And then when I seemed to calm down a little bit, they started to talk about what other options I could have. And when I came round to it, when I could finally let go of how I thought my life had to look, if not, it was going to be a total failure, when I was able to start looking with an open mind at what other options I suddenly did have, I realized that instead, I might be able to go to a university which, is based on academic ability, but that also doesn't have that, reputation of being oh, you're going to be studying 14 hours, 15 hours a day, you're going to be sleep deprived, these intensive 8-week terms that, you have no time to do anything else, and then you just collapse when you break up for holidays. This was the kind of stuff I'd heard about how intensive the Oxbridge lifestyle is. I may be wrong, but this is just what I've heard, right? And so finally I was able to think, wow, maybe I'm going to be able to instead have a good experience at a good university where I can actually also have fun and contemplate just like going out and partying and socializing and building friendships and doing all the extracurricular stuff that I want to do, as well as get a good education. So I started to get really excited about this new option. And that brought me to, fast forward, I actually ended up going to the University of Leeds, which was the best experience of my entire life. I had so much fun. I had so many, life experiences, not just in the lecture rooms or in the library. All of the extra stuff that I did and all of the things we did together as friends and all the memories I made and all of the creative stuff I did, looking back, I wouldn't have wanted it any other way. Now, check it out. It gets even more magical than this. So, as part of my course, so I studied Spanish and World Cinemas at Leeds University. So a different kind of course. Sorry, mister, I know you're kind of wanting a cuddle. There you go. You can put your hand on my shoulder. There we go. So I ended up studying Spanish and World Cinemas, and the most exciting part for me about this course at Leeds University was that I'd also get to spend a year abroad in Spain, perfecting the language, right? So I was incredibly excited about this. Once again, another detour happened in that I applied for loads of different jobs for that 1 year in Spain to improve my language. But it so happened that when I was applying, it was the worst economic recession that Spain had ever seen, that most of the world had ever seen at that point. And something like 75% of people in Spain were actually unemployed. So a lot of employers were absolutely laughing at me. Me trying to apply for jobs with my imperfect Spanish, with no Spanish qualifications, trying to get a job when barely any actual Spanish people could get jobs at the time. So this was another real sort of struggle point for me, where I had this idea in my head of how it was going to be. And then I ended up getting really kind of desperate and scraping around for any kind of job that I could possibly grab, because I just needed a job for my university to approve me going to Spain. So eventually I ended up landing a job teaching at an international school. So it was an English-speaking school on the south coast of Spain in a town that I'd never heard. So it really wasn't, my dream, because I had this vision to maybe get a job in Madrid or Barcelona, maybe in the film industry, speaking Spanish every day. And instead, without sounding ungrateful, the job that I did manage to get was not even close to what I had envisaged in mind. But with a combination of me just sort of going with the flow and also kind of not having any choice, I accepted this job in this tiny little town. And you know what? I ended up having, you guessed it, the absolute time of my life. I discovered that this town that I'd never heard of before was the most stunning, peaceful, gorgeous seaside town. The people there were so friendly. It had this small town kind of culture about it. There were people from all over the world living there, really international place. And on top of that, I had so much free time to go for walks and to make films and to take photographs and to learn how to DJ and spend all of this time on my own with myself, which was, again, at the time, a very low point. I actually felt very lonely when I first moved there. But yet again, that next sort of tough part of living there on my own in a town where I didn't know anyone caused me to actually have quite a spiritual awakening and really develop a relationship with myself. So, on top of that, after a few months of loneliness living on my own in this tiny town in Spain, because I know that it was because I developed such a strong relationship with myself and I was really filling up my own cup, there walks in a man who has now, it's transpired to be, is now the love of my life, my soulmate, my fiance. We're engaged and we're going to get married in a couple of years' time. And he truly is the best match I have ever experienced. We are the best of friends. We're the best team. We push each other. We grow together. We love each other. We're open. We're communicative. It's the best, most wholesome, healthy, loving, romantic relationship that I've ever experienced. Now, can we just rewind for a second and appreciate the fact that had I gone to Cambridge, I wouldn't have gone to Leeds, which meant I wouldn't have gone to this year abroad. And if I'd got a job in Madrid or Barcelona, I wouldn't have ended up going to this tiny town and having that, low point of absolute loneliness, which then led me to meeting the love of my life. So if that's not a powerful story about trusting that the universe is actually always bringing you your manifestation via the best route for a full life experience, then I don't know what is. A second quick story to share with you is that after graduating from university, a few years of kind of like trying to figure life out, I got into building one of my businesses, and it really, to be honest, wasn't growing very well at all. My business was what we could call stuck. And because my business was stuck, that led me to making the decision to go to an event to learn how to basically get my business unstuck and get it growing again. And so that was where I met Eric Ho, who's now become Master Sri Akashana. I then ended up having a 12-month mentoring program with him where he taught me absolutely everything that I needed to know to be able to push my business forwards. And so had it not been for, that dark, tough time of business not growing for a good couple of years, I wouldn't have met him. I wouldn't have learned the actual skills I needed before my business could grow. And so fast forward to now, not only is my business flourishing and growing stronger than ever, and I have more belief in and confidence in the fact that it's just, we're rocking and rolling now, and we've got an amazing team, which is always expanding, by the way. And we're just helping people all over the world to become entrepreneurs as part of the team. And then on top of that, had I not met Master Sri Akashana, I would never have gone to India for 1 month with him and his team as the presenter for his documentary. And then as it's transpired, I've now actually ended up becoming the creative director and producer of the documentary, which we are intending to get streamed on a platform like Netflix or Gaia. So if any of you do actually happen to have some good connections with an entertainment group or a streaming platform like that, please feel free to drop me an email so that we can manifest that together and make it happen. And then on top of that, the final thing that I would never have in my life had it not been for these detours business-wise is that I now also, another thing that I learned from Master Sri Akashana was how to grow a solid and successful YouTube channel. He taught me absolutely everything that I know. In fact, I followed his course. He has a course called YouTube Growth Hacker, which is, a totally accessible online course, which I watched hour by hour by hour. And literally every one of those, details that are quite often a mystery for a lot of people about what you actually need to do, when to post, how to post, what tags to use, what titles to use, what thumbnails to use, what topics to talk about, how frequently to upload, like all of those kind of things which are often shrouded in mystery, he covers in this course. I completed the course, implemented it, took the action, and just to let you guys in on how it's actually gone for me, the amount of money that I invested in the YouTube Growth Hacker course compared to the amount of money that I made in my first month of monetization on YouTube. My first month of monetization on YouTube is twice the amount of income than the amount of money that I invested in the Growth Hacker course. So, I haven't just made back my investment, I've doubled it in the first month of monetization, right? That being said, I've obviously put in a lot of work and time and energy and consistency and patience into my channel, but I just think that's really important to share that, all of these sort of difficult decisions or tough times or detours in my life have all ended up, when you tie it together and when you connect the dots looking backwards, have led to all of these blessings, which I'm so, so, so grateful for now. So I hope you enjoyed that story time. How many of you can relate to any of this? Has this video changed your perspectives in any way? Has it helped you to rethink, to look back at things that have happened in your life with more appreciative eyes? Could it give you that trust that you really need in this moment of your life, that in a few months or a few years from now, you're going to be able to look back, you're going to be able to tell a story about how this, dark period in your life, or where things were stuck, was exactly what you needed. You just didn't really know it at the time. Your manifestation is coming to you via the best route for a full life experience. Everything you're growing through right now is part of the experience. It's what you actually asked for when you came down onto this planet. You wanted to live a life of all emotions, of the ups and the downs. You wanted to taste it and feel it all and experience it all. So let's enjoy every moment. Let's laugh at it when we see it happen, knowing that this is all part of the plan. Thank you for watching. You've got this. Everything that you've asked for is already on its way. And you know that all you need to do now is trust the process. Until next time, bye.